This next discussion is going to be about social media and marketing. And we've got 3 people here going to be talking on the subject. My name is Tyler Crosson. I'm an entrepreneur and a social marketer by trade. And we have Mike Vine, Mike Vine, and he is the director of marketing for Peter Schiff. And we have Franz, who owns his own business, does social marketing and that kind of thing for his profession as well, right? Franz? Yeah. Good? Yeah. I mean, you can introduce yourselves if you want.
Sure, and for the Free State Project and PorcFest.
Yay.
I run a small PR marketing firm called Sentinel Consulting out of the Seacoast. Peter Schiff's definitely a client.
That was my mistake. So anyways, we're here to talk about social media and marketing. The first thing that we were going to talk about was going to be Facebook. Mike was going to talk in regards to Facebook. We're going to do just a couple of minutes where we kind of give you a brief overview of social media marketing. And then we're going to open it up so that it's a kind of a Q&A, a discussion where you can come up to the mic over here and speak into the mic so that we can catch it for the video. And you can, we'll discourse.
All right, Facebook. Let's see. Well, the first thing about social media marketing is that everyone thinks they can do it, and very few people can actually do it. It's a little bit different than what people normally do on social media because there are certain techniques that will maximize your impact, and they actually change, because one of the challenges of social media, especially Facebook, is that they're constantly changing the algorithm. Same thing with Google. So you have to sort of keep up with what the state of the art is. So I'm going to introduce a couple of basic points about techniques that I've picked up. They may be obvious or may not, but is what it is. So the first thing with Facebook is it was primarily a photo medium. They've built it to be photocentric. So you guys have all seen the memes that go around. Facebook doesn't really take well to texts, and people want to post text notices, and it certainly allows for that. But compared to Twitter or other platforms, Facebook really promotes and supports photos. So if whatever you're going to promote, you want to try to put a nice image with it, put the header text and a little copy, and you can put additional notes on the side. But that's essentially how things circulate, and you guys probably know that being end users, that you see the things that are showing up in your feed. One of the reasons Facebook does that is because their own advertisers want to have big pictures, so for these sponsored posts. So it's even more so than the beginning of Facebook. They really want to get people to use photos. My other main message about Facebook is that I'm finding it to be a more and more difficult medium for people who aren't paid advertisers. So if you want to go to Facebook and try to build an organic presence, it's hard or impossible unless you're directing people from an exterior source to your page. So if your website leads there, you can put a little module on the side of your site and have a like button. That's a way to do it. But within Facebook, it's not referring traffic. 2 years ago, you really could have built up a name for yourself, and people have built up huge pages just by organically promoting and having things get reshared. Your best bet is to post something that's really juicy and get people to reshare it and see where the source. It'll say, the shared via whatever it is, Peter Schiff page, and that's a good way to do it. But it's getting more and more difficult. So I've actually am working on learning more about Twitter, and now there's Instagram and Pinterest and so on. Facebook's trying to catch up. For those of you who hadn't noticed, they just introduced this hashtag feature. They copied from Twitter, so now you can hash. But it is a challenge because they've got the privacy settings. The whole advantage of Facebook, the reason that people jumped on, was because you were supposed to be able to control who saw what. And the reason that if you haven't noticed, they've been trying to subvert that is because it does make it a little more difficult, even especially for their advertisers. As an advertiser, it's still we find a very effective mechanism in terms of ROI. If you're willing to put in, we get better results out of Facebook than Google AdWords. And so if you're willing to spend, I would consider it, but I wouldn't try to beat your head against the wall trying to build up your page organically.
Great. And now Franz is going to speak a little bit on Twitter. And I'm going to take LinkedIn and Pinterest and Google+.
Sure. So Mike gave me a good segue in as far as Twitter. I think I'd compare it to Facebook with three main differences, where he says Facebook is more photo-centric, Twitter is more text-centric. You can add photos, but if you actually look at the most shared, most retweeted on Twitter, you'll find that it's text, and it's a limited format. For those who aren't familiar, there's a 140-character limit as far as what you can write. So you basically have a sentence or two to make your point very succinctly. And it's a very high volume feed. So there's differences as far as on Facebook, you might write a paragraph, or on Twitter, you need to really refine your thoughts and express them. The other 2 points, which I think are, you may find yourself with trying to decide, I'd like to do more on social media, where do I spend my time? And there are positives to Facebook, there are positives to Twitter. As Mike said, Facebook has made it harder and harder to reach people for free. It's more regimented, it's more controlled. Twitter is still relatively uncontrolled, although I wouldn't be surprised to see that change. It has been more constant in terms of what the platform does, and you can still reach people for free. So that's where I've really had seen the most advantage, is you can follow people who have similar interests to what you're promoting, assuming you're using it for promotional use, or if you're a business person, follow people who are in similar businesses who might be potential customers. And chances are they may follow you back if they find your profile interesting and if they find what you've written interesting. So that's actually a strategy I've used for Free State Project and promoting PorcFest. You can reach people for free, and that's really great because sometimes you find yourself with a new project or an organization, you don't have a budget to work with yet, you'd like to get started. That works really well. So there's some tools you can use that can help make that easier, and you can actually get a lot more followers. You do have to be careful, just like on Facebook. I'm not sure if Mike mentioned, there is the potential if you post the wrong thing or do the wrong thing, you can get banned arbitrarily almost. And on Twitter, there is the same thing. If you have go to the extent that you're spamming people, there is a line. It's not a very clear line, so you want to do things in moderation. And but it's a great tool. So I'll leave it at that and pass it back to Tyler. Thank you.
Yeah. So LinkedIn. How many of you are familiar with LinkedIn? I assume most of you. So LinkedIn is basically, it's like Facebook, Twitter, except for it is a professional networking site. So LinkedIn is more geared towards professionals trying to connect, and it's a great place. I just moved recently. These guys are already early movers to New Hampshire with the FSP. If you're looking for a place to find a job, LinkedIn is a great place to find that job and connect with potential employers. So anyways, LinkedIn marketing, essentially the best way to get involved with that is to create your own company page on LinkedIn. And I would argue that even better use of LinkedIn would be to create a group with kind of a niche subject. My father happened to be the guy who saw social media marketing was going to be huge, and 7 years ago he started the social media marketing group on LinkedIn. It's now grown to 620,000 members, so that's our essentially our full-time job, is taking care of that group and doing different things with the group and connecting with some marketing partners and whatnot. So that's basically, I would say, the number one way to market through LinkedIn is to use the LinkedIn company pages feature. You can actually put info about your page. You can share updates and everything on a regular basis. That's what I actually do, is most of the actual social marketing myself. And then, have that group where you can have a niche topic to discuss, like social media marketing, and you can get a lot of engagement and get a lot of organic growth through that. Pinterest has become the third largest social network in the world almost overnight. I mean, how many of you have heard of Pinterest before? Okay, so there's a few, that haven't, and Pinterest is pretty amazing. It's basically it's a virtual pin board. So I'm sure you're all familiar with those cork boards that you can pin things into and pin up pictures or pin up to-do lists and things like that. Pinterest it's essentially a virtual cork board where you can put a collection of pictures and things that you find. Websites, you can pin up like a picture that has a link to a website with a blog post about 10 things not to do in a marriage, that type of thing. And those types of things get really great engagement. And at first, for me, I'm sitting here going, okay, well, how's Pinterest going to benefit me, right? Like, as a business owner, as somebody who's trying to market yourself, you want to think, okay, it's great, it sounds great, it's really cool, it's fun, but like, what can I do to actually, put forward my business with this? Well, I was amazed because at first I was like, well, Pinterest is just for, ladies that just want to share pictures of different things that they like and whatnot. And it was very stereotypical of me to say that, but I did nonetheless. And
Pretty sure that's how it started.
yeah, it was. But I was proven wrong, though, because a friend of mine said to me, he goes, no, you know what? I used to think that same thing, and I actually found a way to really kind of, capitalize on Pinterest. And he showed me a couple of really cool, things that you can do, like taking a picture and editing it so that it says, like, okay, top 10 things is the title, but then you cut off on number 5 on the picture. So then it's interesting, and somebody wants to click to see, okay, what's the rest of this? And it refers the traffic to your website. So really neat things you can do. Pinterest is a great medium. I highly suggest it to everyone, not just retail businesses that sell perfumes and things that are visually appealing. You can do it with just about anything. So I highly recommend it. And then Google Plus is great. It's one of those ones where, people like to talk down on it because it's not as big as Facebook, or that Facebook was there first, that type of thing. But Google Plus actually, there's a huge network of people that are very, very avid Google Plus users. So when you're talking about social media marketing, yeah, so I got a guy over here who's all into it. So when you're talking about social media marketing, the great thing about Google Plus is most people, and I'm sure most of you have a Google account, right? Like a Gmail account or something like this. If somebody has a Google account and they're following you on your Google Plus page, and they go to type into Google something that you have shared as a blog post, you're going to be one of the top results on the first page just because of that Google Plus connection. Okay, so that's fantastic for businesses when you're trying to market things, because most people these days use Google to try to find something. And if they're using Google to try to find, I don't know, cat sweaters, and you happen to make cat sweaters, well, then you're going to be the first person to show up if they've been following you because they're connected to you, that type of thing. So anyways, that's a brief overview of all the major social networks. Instagram, I think, I'm not really that familiar with Instagram, and I don't know that either of you are either, so we just won't cover
my wife up.
Vanessa is a huge Instagrammer, yeah.
I just have a couple points that came up as you guys were talking. When you're talking about the size of your list, so he built this. You and your father built this group. When it comes to marketing, especially direct marketing, and social media is kind of an evolution. It's in between direct marketing and general promotion marketing. The size of your list is everything. There's a size in the quality, but if you have a big list, that's actually very valuable. I mean, people, if you have a huge 200,000 good names, people will rent that list from you, and that's how valuable it is. And it's less valuable on social media than it is on email. Even today, So one recommendation I'd have is use your social media. The problem is that you don't really control or own those names in the way you do on an email list. So until there's a social media network where we can have that kind of trust that they're not going to change the rules on us, and that every message is going to get to somebody. Email is still the ultimate. If you have someone's email address, it's second to a phone number in terms of being able to market to them. And I would still recommend, if you don't do it, if you just have a social media presence, to set up an account with MailChimp or one of these email marketing programs and try to get people to sign up. And especially because one of the things about social media is that you can't really deliver a detailed message. If you try, as soon as you get a little bit dense, people tune out. And then the best things that we've seen on like the Facebook, the Free State Project page is when some dude stuck beer in the snow, right? And people, that 200,000 likes, and beer in the snow. I get that, beer in the snow. And people, I liked it. I enjoyed it. But it was that simple. It takes people 2 seconds as they're scrolling by, and they're like, oh, it's clever. So and then if you use that and get them on your list, then you can send them in an email. You get people's attention for an additional 15 seconds.
And that brings up a great point about use these things like memes and the popularity of memes to your advantage, right? Like, share pictures of those. Even though you personally may find it silly, not worth your time, whatever, share those pictures because they do get a crap load of engagement and likes and, shares and things like that, comments, whatever. So I highly recommend doing that.
The challenge of a marketer in general is to
brand it.
Put yourself in the shoes of the people that you're trying to reach, and that's really, I find that a continual challenge. I have my interests and what I think is good and what I think is tasteful and so on and so forth, and they're not the common denominator for the people I'm trying to reach. So I'm going to limit myself if I'm like, wow, that's a very well done marketing campaign I just put together right there. But no one cares because it's not their interest or their taste. And most of us are value subjectivists. We don't think that there's one correct way to live or lifestyle or something. So you have to try to meet people there, and if you want to persuade them, you meet them where they are, and then bring them over. That's kind of a basic point, but I think it's worth saying.
Yeah, and how has anyone heard of inbound marketing or Sales 2.0? Raise your hand if you have. No? Okay. One of the number one ways that I would suggest personally getting into social media and marketing and being successful in today's world with marketing is to look up Inbound Marketing University with HubSpot. I'm not trying to plug, I'm not getting paid or anything like that, but it's the way that I got into the marketing world, basically. I was lucky enough to have a father who has all this experience from all these years of doing marketing. But the Inbound Marketing University that HubSpot offers, and it's free, there's no cost to it or anything like that, but it's like 20 or 30 classes that you can take online. They're pre-recorded webinars and things like that. Really excellent in teaching you the understanding of modern marketing and how to take advantage of social media in particular. And that's kind of where I launched off. So anyways, we'll go ahead and open it up to questions, and we can get this going. We're going to put the mic over here. If anyone has any questions, just come on up and challenge us. We want to help you succeed in your marketing.
Do you guys have any suggestions for composition of emails, length of that, what should be included, what calls to action should be like, image to text content, how many links are too much to drive people, just anything that, would help me to get more people to not only open it, but, click through.
I do, yeah. I would say you want to focus people on the call to action. You still don't have a lot of attention span with email. So we've seen very good results just moving the call to action higher and making things very simple.
I'd say above the fold, obviously, is
yeah.
the best
People
place.
like above the fold. People will scroll somewhat, but you know, there's sort of two schools. There's some people, depends on what you're trying to sell. There's some, I would say, shadier businesses, though maybe some legitimate businesses do too, where they're trying to sort of weed out people who are on the fence, and they want really committed people. And so they will send out long emails, or they'll link to a really long letter, and then they'll figure that by the time the person gets to the end, then they've got someone on the line that is likely to be a sale. But if you're just trying to, you know, sell a product and you know, do your business, I would say try to get to the point. Unless it's a newsletter, you can have multiple points. But I still think simple is better. Hit a few subjects. People don't have time. Everyone's really under pressure with all this information coming in, that what they're looking for is a curator, is someone to show them what's relevant and interesting. So you don't really get a lot of slack to you know, just say, oh, you know, you're a few things I was thinking about and whatever. People don't care. We don't have time. So I would get to the point.
Yeah, and I was going to say, personally, what I've found in my experience is that you want to try to keep your email subject lines not super short, but under 60 characters or so. The longer the subject line starts to get, the more spam filters start to, you know, weed you out and put you into the spam filter of the various ISPs and email providers.
Don't put urgent or important or use capital letters. The spam, they're already smart to that.
Yeah, and don't use free and you know, limited time only and things like that. They're just I guess you should say really any kind of salesy, ridiculous, over the top sales thing you can think of. Don't use it in your email subject line, because it'll just go straight to the spam filter. You had a comment?
Yeah, very quickly. I think they've covered most of it, and I would just say that if you're doing that, probably look at like the MailChimp guide or any of the guides. There are some guides as far as image to text ratio, all of those things. I don't know them off the top of my head. I don't do that a lot. And there is a list of words that are spam triggers, which is worth paying attention to. It's a big problem. You know, even legitimate things, I find. I've gotten emails from Google that actually go into my Gmail spam, so it's a problem for everybody.
Yeah, I've used just about every single email service provider that there is out there, so I've learned all of their different, you know, techniques that they offer, and it's definitely important to take those trainings that they offer for free, most of them. I use Constant Contact personally as my favorite, but it's a little bit more expensive. MailChimp is great. It's especially if you're just starting out. That was the one that I started out with. They're fantastic. So anyways.
Sort of on that point, there's a broader point about marketing now versus there was a generation ago, direct marketing was very salesy. So a lot of people they're used to that, the older generation that I work with. There's definitely the people that are using social media are more sophisticated. Our generation is more sophisticated about these sales things, and they want a sense of authenticity to come across. So if you're pushing something, don't just hit, hey, buy this, or do this. You do have to establish a rapport with people. Let them know about you. Let them in. Let them know about your company. You'll see. You know, if you subscribe to the pages of marketing firms, that they'll post. I don't do this so much, but they'll post. You know, their people. You know, having a pizza party or whatever. People want to connect, and so yeah, that's definitely recommended.
Yeah, I was going to say that actually goes. What he just said literally goes perfectly with the inbound marketing philosophy overall, which is, don't try to be overly salesy. These days, it doesn't really work. That's the old outbound marketing philosophy, which is, you know, hit people where they're at with your message and try to get them to sign up right then and there, try to get them to buy, etc. The new age philosophy is more of I want to try and provide value to you first as an end user, to show you my expertise, to show you that I have something worth paying for, that I am trustworthy. And that's the whole kind of, well, I guess that's really inbound marketing in a nutshell. And that's something, like I said, why I highly suggest going through that inbound marketing university if you have the time. It's, takes a lot of hours to complete. But
I'm just curious. I mean, obviously, if you're here, you have some interest in how many people actually have a project that they have ownership of that they're trying to promote. Do you have a business, or do you have okay. And have there been any, I mean, we're curious to hear, we've been doing this for a while, any roadblocks that you've hit, we're happy to talk them through with you. I know it's a tough game and it's always changing, so if anyone has, we're happy to field those.
Always changing is probably the best way to describe social media and marketing in general. But yeah, we'd love
you
your
have a brain
challenges.
trust. Try us.
Can you hear me? Is that okay? I do a group. It's a discussion group, Liberty on the Rocks. Everyone should go have one in their community. And so I've
Can you speak a little bit closer to the
I've tried
mic?
to promote that through Facebook advertising and use the click-through pay system, because that seemed to kind of like once they've read the long page, they're really into you. So people who click on something are going to be most interested. Trying to target that to people, what kind of keywords, libertarian, economics kind of things to bring more people in. What's the best way to get the most bang for $50 and reach people for your event?
That's a great question. I actually have some experience in that. I started with Google AdWords a long time ago, and I've done Facebook advertising, which is similar. And the key thing you need to know in that is the targeting is critical. And who you're targeting your ad to is what's, in most cases, makes all the difference, especially in Facebook. And so you have, Facebook, I will admit, has a confusing interface for that. And it depends on what kind of ad you do. If you're advertising, the differences would be if you're advertising, say, a page versus an individual event, for example, your options change. If you're doing an ad that targets friends of people who are going to the event or friends of people who like a page versus a more general audience, your options change. So it's actually a little bit more complex than I can go into completely. But what I would say is geographical targeting for something like you're doing is critical. They have the option to, not only by state, but say within a certain number of miles. And people get that wrong all the time. And that really, if you don't have that right, you'll shoot yourself in the foot, and anything else you do won't matter. It won't work how it needs to. The other, it's very powerful. They do have options where you can target people who like a certain thing. So if you were doing Liberty on the Rocks, you might say, well, what does your target audience like? Maybe Ron Paul. Maybe they like other libertarian causes. You can experiment with that and do multiple runs. That's kind of my advice for any advertising campaign. You want to try different things. Do what we call an A/B test and say, I'm going to try this, I'm going to try that. I know what the difference is between these two things, and I'm going to run them. Run this one for a week and then that one for a week. Take the one that performs better, and then do something more along those lines. Do another A/B test. That's the approach that will get you to the best performing campaigns. So
I would say that marketing in general, like a lot of what my father and I do, is we take and just constantly are tweaking things. And that's kind of our motto is, tweak, test, see the results, do the analytics on it, and then if it didn't work, see why not, try and tweak. You know what I mean? Just keep tweaking, testing. It's constant movement. Like he said, it's never the same. It's never going to remain the same for very long. And one thing, just as a note, like that was a great note, both of you, on the social advertising part, but I also wanted to say, just as a personal kind of tip or advice, for Liberty on the Rocks and what you're doing, I would probably suggest more of an organic approach to it rather than social advertising, because a lot of people, and I don't know about y'all, but I actually don't like to be sold to, and maybe that's just part of why I do well with what I do, but I don't really like to be overly sold to, and I never click on advertising. So one of the things, and I'm talking on a personal level, not on a professional level.
Pretty much the same.
Yeah. So one of the things I suggest is taking and acting as the page itself and going to other related pages, making, witty comments, interacting with those people. They post a picture of the beer. post a comment that says, hey, wish I was there chilling having one. Oh, by the way, if somebody, comments and interacts with you, then you can say, oh, hey, just so you know, we do this Liberty on the Rocks event if you're in this area, whatever. You know what I mean? Like,
just on that note, for this kind of nonprofit activism kind of thing, and if it's ongoing, Facebook has the option to say your friend likes this. We've done better with that as opposed to trying to hit them with just a text thing. Say, hey, your friend is into this. Maybe you like it too. Yeah, so that I would definitely check.
That's something that actually works on me personally too. And like I said, I don't do advertising. I really don't like. Yeah. But like
you want to get. I mean, it's in multiple stages. If you have ongoing event, if it's one event, I would just advertise that event. You want to get them on your page, preferably eventually get them on an email database, and then you can hit them as the events come, and then you get repeat chances at them. What's that?
The reason we do the microphone is so that people can hear it on the
I get a lot
video.
more traction out of Facebook than I do off the email list. Even people that come month after month and they'll write their name, sign in.
Are you on?
give their-
Are you guys doing Meetup.com for that?
I do Meetup, and I get probably about half, maybe more people through Meetup than through Facebook. So I haven't tried Pinterest. I've done some Google Plus, like that went nowhere. There's a Nashville just group on Google Plus, and that's where I'm at. So I post a couple events there, but I don't know. Google Plus is still kind of small scale, really.
Yeah,
from what I see.
and we can have conversations afterwards too. I'm sure if you guys are open, I'm open if you want to talk to me afterwards on an individual level to talk more specifics.
I just wanted to say you raised one really good point that I forgot to mention. Is that how do you know where your stuff comes? Where you get half from Pinterest, half from Facebook, and using Google Analytics or another analytics way, so you can see what works and what doesn't. This is just for everyone.
Right.
That's critical because sometimes if you do a bunch of stuff and then you get a bunch of signups or whatever your goal is, and you don't know, then you're kind of flying blind, and you could think one thing's working, and you just.
I know my core group. When new people show up, I always greet them. That's just kind of being proper, and ask them, how did you find out about us? So sometimes it's, oh, Bob told me, or oh, I'm new to town and I looked on Meetup, or I recognize their name from Facebook, or they say Facebook or something like that. So usually I try and, as an event comes up for that month, I kind of key in on who are my new players here, who am I likely to see, and then those people don't show up, but someone else does, and I find out how they found us.
Yeah, I mean, for activism groups, especially if it's in one locale where people can meet each other, I think pages are actually not that effective. They can be a way to let people know, just get the word out that you're there. But if you want to keep people engaged, to form a Facebook group or an email list if people are older, generally. That's what we've been doing on the Free Coast over here. We've got a nice little group going, and people can post links and have conversations, and when they get engaged on that level, then they're more likely to come out. So yeah, for Liberty on the Rocks, if you have one really engaged person who can reach out and be adding people manually to that Facebook group, that's probably a good.
There's
way.
actually a trick too to mass invite, but yeah, you can look it up on Google.
So I've done a couple of Facebook ad campaigns, the ads on the sidebar, and I've tweaked a few things, and I've actually found Facebook's results to be both a little bit lacking and also convoluted at times too. Would you recommend any third-party analytics software that can interpret that a little bit better for me?
Okay, yeah, that's a good question. So it depends on what your action is. So if you're doing a Facebook ad, you can do an ad that when they click it, you want them to like a page, for example, and in that case, I don't know of any third-party analytics that can track within Facebook. If you're sending them to an outside website, then you can actually, if you're using Google Analytics has a URL tagging tool that you can use where you put in, if you use Analytics Campaign, et cetera, and it will give you a URL that you can send people to, and that way you'll be able to see more information in analytics from your Facebook campaign. So does that answer your question, or was there more specific?
Well, these have mostly been for within Facebook likes, not necessarily going to another website too. So
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, the data they give you is limited. I don't think any third-party analytics can hook into internally what Facebook has. I don't.
Yeah, I don't
know
think
of that.
that. I don't think Facebook has an open API as far as that's concerned, so it wouldn't be possible. But you know what? Like Mike was talking about earlier, Facebook changes their EdgeRank algorithm, is what it's called, so often, and they do so many different things that I'm not going to recommend to completely ignore them, because Facebook is great for various reasons. But I almost ignore my Facebook pages while I'm marketing, and I use a program called Hootsuite. Is anyone familiar with Hootsuite? Or it's essentially how best to explain it? It's a
If you're on multiple social media properties, it'll allow you to broadcast out to all of them without having to go individually, post on Twitter, post on Facebook.
Yeah, it's almost an automation software, essentially, is what it is. And it allows you to post links to your blogs to all those pages without having to log in to each one individually and do it, because Hootsuite logs in for you. And most of the time, what I'll do while I'm marketing is they actually have a really neat tool on Hootsuite, and I'm not trying to promote Hootsuite either, because I don't get paid by them. I'm just saying, as a user.
He's getting paid by all these people.
As a user. Yeah, exactly. Corporate shill. No, I'm not. I'm an anarchist. As a user, I just enjoy Hootsuite the most. Personally, I find it to be the most economically efficient as well. It's only like $10 a month, so it's really no big deal.
Yeah, we use Hootsuite as well. The only thing I would say is you won't get very far social media just going out, which you don't. You have to circle back then and engage with people in threads and so on.
Yeah, so engagement is like probably the number one thing, right? Like if you're not engaging with your customers or your market base, then you're never going to get anywhere, because people will stop listening to you. It's just the same thing as when I talk and talk and talk, and you can ask my wife. I talk a lot. And when I realize, like, cognitively, while I'm sitting there talking about things, people start going elsewhere. And, it's the same thing with social media, because really all that social media networks is an augment of real social interaction in real life, right? Like, if you're not good at that, you should probably work on it. So anyways.
Hi guys, thanks for doing the panel. My name is John Light, and as a little bit of background, I do Bitcoin consulting out of San Francisco Bay Area. I haven't started using social media yet, other than LinkedIn. LinkedIn's been pretty valuable for that.
I love LinkedIn.
Yeah, LinkedIn's pretty awesome, especially for it is a mostly B2B, so LinkedIn's good for that. But I had a question, a pretty general question, which might just be a larger question about marketing in general, but how is social media good for service industries to find new customers? And how can a service industry, like using Bitcoin consulting as an example, find new customers when maybe those customers aren't exactly talking about it? Like, say, a computer repair firm, their customers might not be talking about computers all the time. They just so happen to have a computer. So how do you find those people and market to those people through social media?
Yelp. So I would say I think Yelp, for small businesses like that, Yelp would probably be the number one. You want to get good reviews. If you get bad reviews, you want to log in and respond to them politely. Yelp, I'm not sure.
Do not take a line from Amy's Baking Company.
Oh yeah,
I don't know if
don't become Amy's Baking
recently.
Company and curse them out in all caps. And say that God is on your side.
This really happened. It was on the Food Network. Yeah. It was what's his name? Gordon Ramsay. He did that show, Kitchen Nightmares. Anyways, talking about Yelp, yeah.
So I would say Yelp is good, and then you want to have a presence. One just general strategy, and it doesn't cost you anything, is if you set up an account, then if someone's Googling your name, then you have more chance of having more entries on the first page, and that's hugely valuable. People find things online through Google unless you've already hit them and they're going directly to your website. So you want to find any ways you can to rank as highly, not only on your own name, but on key terms. And it's very hard now. It's obviously competitive. Everyone's going there. So if you're in something like buy gold, then good luck. Yeah. But if you're in a more niche industry like Bitcoin Consulting, then there is still opportunity. Another way to, as far as SEO is concerned, is to create inbound links to your own website, and that'll help you with your page rank.
Do not fall for any black hat SEO people that try to, it's essentially your used car salesman pushing their ability to get you on the first page and all this stuff. And it's so complicated and not an easy industry at all, and it takes a ton of work. No one can get you on the first page in 10 minutes. It's not going to happen. I do recommend also, in addition to Yelp, getting into Google Places. That's another one to rank locally for people when they're searching. If they search, I'm trying to think, Bitcoin Consulting. If they search Bitcoin Consulting where are you based out of? Bay Area. So if they search Bitcoin Consulting California, you may be the first one to show up because just maybe there's no other Bitcoin consultants in the Bay Area. Maybe there is. I don't know. I'm just saying.
Luckily, I'm the first to show up on Google when you search Bitcoin Consultant, period. So
Well, that's beautiful.
it's a good problem to have, I guess.
Sure.
Then I can't help you.
So I think that I'd add a couple of things on this. One is that demographics actually has a huge effect on which marketing is most effective. So there's kind of a continuum between, email would be more traditional people who are less tech savvy perhaps, and then Facebook is moving that direction, and then Twitter tends to be a more tech savvy younger audience. So it depends on what your business is. If you're doing Bitcoin, you may find that your demographic is more tech savvy. You may not, depending on what you're doing. And the other point I'd say is that I don't know exactly what you do, but if you're working with local businesses, you may find that your customers may not know they want Bitcoin. So that changes the game a little bit, and you may have to get a bit more creative as far as what you're doing. You may actually, for example, write articles on issues that the type of businesses you want to talk to will face, and then work in the angle, you should be using Bitcoin. That would be an example.
Yeah, and I'd suggest getting involved in things like forums, and I'm sure you probably are, but get involved in things like forums. LinkedIn Answers used to be a big thing until they nixed it, which stinks. But and getting involved in, have you heard of Quora, Quora? That's a big one for when people ask questions. You can go in as your, essentially your company name and answer those questions, and that's a great way it's almost like I said, the philosophy of inbound marketing, which is providing the value, providing answers, providing information for free so that people will be attracted to use you as a service provider, especially for service-based industries.
Okay, thank you very much for your answers.
Anyone else? Yep.
I used to have a lot of luck with, MySpace first and then Facebook with driving traffic to a variety of different types of websites. And now I'm kind of just focused on a couple of different alternative media websites that I'm working with. And since Facebook has changed their algorithms, my traffic has just completely deteriorated.
As with everyone else.
I can't reach any of my audience, and is it, like you were saying, you were alluding to that about just scrapping Facebook, and I want to do that.
Yeah, I'm not going to say scrap Facebook, but
it still drives, I have, with WordPress, I have stats, and it tells me where my traffic's coming from. And the majority of it is still Facebook, but it's not what it once was. And should I start jumping on to Google Plus and stuff like that with alternative media? Is that a good outlet for that?
I recommend getting involved in everything possible because you never know necessarily what's going to start driving traffic. See, how I gave the example earlier, how I didn't care about Pinterest all that much, and I actually joked about it and all this. Well, Pinterest quickly became the third largest referral of traffic to my website very quickly. It was like 1 or 2 months it was starting to be, it became a huge blip on my radar as far as the analytics is concerned. So I was blown away when I saw that. I didn't realize how much traffic Pinterest can push. And that's just an example, right?
Would that work for something like alternative media?
Pinterest works for everyone. Yeah.
Really?
When I say everyone, I mean everyone. There's some trainings and things you can take out there that give you some examples and how to do things on Pinterest. And I'd be willing to, talk to you off to the side and give you some kind of just minor examples of how I was able to take my essentially service-based industry and do well with Pinterest. So
I think once Facebook started trying to make you pay to reach people who you had already engaged, that they sort of jumped the shark at that point. And I mean, we still have to deal with them because they are the 800-pound gorilla. But if you can think of ways to capture your people, whether it's adding them to email, for your content, are you RSS enabled? Okay, so RSS I think is this sort of slow burn thing that's I don't know why everyone doesn't use it. It's still sort of a more techie crowd. But there are a lot of people out there. You can see Google Reader just shut down, and there was like panic at the internet. Everyone was trying to. I guess they're still shutting down next month, but everyone's trying to find an alternative. So there is a huge audience of people who do rely on RSS. That's how I don't like to get things in my inbox. I think most people are still getting them in their inbox or just incidentally in social media, but. I think our generation is going to prefer to get their media on RSS and then keep their inbox for work and that kind of thing.
Hey guys, so you touched on email marketing and social media and some other things, but do you guys have any opinions on like display and like pay-per-click advertising, like through the Google Display Network?
Sure, I can talk about Google. I've been doing Google AdWords for about 7 years now. It's expensive. That's the number one thing I tell people when they ask about AdWords. It's more expensive than people think. You have to be very careful. It's, Mike said most people think they can do social media, but they can't do it. That's even more true of AdWords. The targeting is critical, and you can easily spend money and get no results. You can spend hundreds, thousands of dollars. I've seen it all the time. So AdWords works well. For the experience I've had, the display network on AdWords does not perform very well. Sometimes it is cheaper and that offsets it, but it's one of those things where you do need to experiment. You need to see, does it work well for my business? And if you are setting up AdWords, it's really worth the time to either have someone who's experienced or spend a lot of time learning their platform. They do have good resources. So,
well, with with the Google Display Network, you can also retarget. So if your potential customers are visiting websites that are similar to yours, like it'll display your banner ads on relevant websites.
Yeah.
through AdSense, you're saying?
Right, yeah.
I like advertising, and it's totally something that I want to get more into, and I actually am by chance. We're doing a couple other startups, my father and I, and I'm just by chance I have to get into it. And it's not something I have a ton of experience with. The little bit of experience that I do have, like Franz said, if you're not super good at I almost want to say hyper targeting and really getting down to a very finite amount of demographic and whatnot. It can be very difficult to do it without spending a lot of money, and that's part of the problem. Is especially for startups, do you want to spend a lot of money and potentially get no results, or do you want to not spend that much money? So I guess that's my feeling on it, is you can really blow through a lot of money quickly. That's what I experienced with it. So
I would just say there's a lot of things that you can do before you start spending money. It's kind of a plug of what I do for a living, and mainly PR. There are people out there that you can hire that have expertise, but there's a lot of different techniques. If you reach out to someone who has a big list and you trade promotions, there's a lot of things you can do. I think that when people are starting out, they really you don't need to spend money unless there's something that you're specifically promoting. Like we were promoting this event, even though the bulk of our promotion was organic, since it was a fixed date, and we just wanted to see how many people we could get out here, we would throw a little money at it. But if you're just building your business, I think that you can use those techniques, get clever, try to figure out ways that you can get your name out there without spending money, and then eventually you'll hit a plateau where you basically you're big enough that you need to be an advertiser to keep that growth going. But when you're in that initial phase, there's a lot of ways to do it on your own.
And obviously, there are certain, I would say, verticals that do need to use social advertising or just advertising in general right away and using big budgets. But most startups, most businesses, and like he said, can get away with not spending a bunch of money on advertising and focusing more on PR and marketing and social marketing.
Picking a great name is a good start. I know a guy
making sure that you can get them all on your profile.
Got a good domain name and built up a business really quick just because that's what people happen to be searching, and
domain names. And when you pick your business name, try to make sure that you can get all your social media profiles first, because when people search for you, they're not going to search for like, for example, Sentinel with a 3 instead of the E. You know what I mean? Most people are not going to do that.
Well, with those email lists, like you said, they were worth a lot of money. I mean, do you think it'll be wiser to purchase an email list or to divert that money into search advertising?
Panic. The people out there selling lists tend to be
shady.
Yeah, shady. It's definitely a wary industry. Better advice would be if you can reach out and make a connection with someone who has a sort of a complementary business, and then you can end up paying them, or if you can offer them an equivalent, that's one way to do things.
Yeah, I personally would never recommend buying a list because generally when you buy a list, it's going to be older, saturated. People are unsubscribing in mass numbers, and like that, a list needs to be, it's almost like a child. It needs to be nurtured. It needs to be like, engaged a lot. And that's something that just really can't happen if you're going to do that.
Those lists are abused.
Yeah, they've been abused. And they're probably to the point where they're dead at that point, in my opinion, most of them. There are some people that sell good lists, but like he said, you want to get with somebody else who has a list in your same vertical. They're very similar. It's not going to be much of a change to the end user. And completely honest, you probably want to buy out that business and operate under that business name too, because if you're going to take over a list, those people need to be used to seeing that business name in their inbox for it to have any kind of an effect on your actual open and click rates.
Anytime you do a big transition, like if you're going to transition off of Facebook, you're going to lose a huge chunk because people just aren't paying attention. People that you might instantly get if they're just on the list and you can keep hitting them. But if you try to shift them, it's a precarious thing.
Well, so that goes to the question of push marketing versus pull. Do you think that in this day and age, people are getting more savvy to the email blast and they're kind of like putting that in their spam folder?
Yes.
So do you think that email blasts are no longer effective or gone?
I honestly, because I really work in affiliate marketing is essentially what I do, so I know what you're talking about. Especially email marketing is really what I do every single day. And I recommend what's become really successful for me is, like he said, a newsletter, and I build in sales things into the newsletter so that it's not overtly salesy, but it does have the ability to drive revenue for us. So and it goes along with that inbound marketing philosophy, right? Like providing value. I provide people with an aggregate of content that is of interest to them in the newsletter, and then also have a special free ebook or something like that. And again, with inbound marketing philosophy, I highly suggest you take the training on it. And you can go anywhere. There's a bunch of different books and all kinds of things, but giving away things like free ebooks and things like that is a great way to do it. But we're out of time actually, so we're gonna have to
guys, thanks.
end this. Yeah, thank you. And
thank you.
So I appreciate y'all coming out. And if you have anything, you can come talk to us at any point. We're around.
Except me, I'm busy.
Mike's busy.
Come on, you young people, it's time to rejoice and claim your inheritance. Raise up your voice. The lantern of liberty's leading the way. In a year for the youth, this is New Year's Day. and I know